narrowing it down as to where you can't be, I think, is actually a better way sometimes of thinking about where it could be. Maybe this little bit of blur here might trigger something in my brain that reminds me of a Colombian side. Something about this little bit fence as well felt very down there. Hello, buddy, how's it going? We are back. Apologies for not posting. I was on holiday a bit from the family, and just as a precursor, I've got a stag do next weekend, which I am leaving for on Wednesday. So, probably not going to be posting as much, but the feedback to the last one was pretty good about helping you get out of Master Division and imparting my wisdom. And I am going to need to practice. Can't really play competitive because I don't want to get relegated. So yeah, we're just going to play a couple bits of this and see if we can learn stuff, if you can learn stuff as well, and yeah, try and give you some tips and some help on how to get as good as me. I am, well, I'd say I'm underrated at the minute, but yeah, hopefully we can get back up to, well, pushing towards top 10 in the UK. But we're Chile here, Chile. We've got the white car. So when you're in South America, so not so much anymore, because Peru's been covered with Gen 4 and new truck stuff and all of that, so you don't get as much of the white truck. So it kind of mainly puts you in Chile, Bolivia as your sort of options when you've got a sort of very exposed white car like this. But my way of putting it is, I mean, obviously this is not Bolivia, because, well, all of the reasons why. Shall I go all the reasons why? There's lots of trees. It's not hot enough. You know, it's a very cool climate. If you look up here, that might even be snow. You can get snow in Bolivia, but not when it looks like this. This is a very, very forested bit. But yeah, when it's a thin sort of white strip and it's kind of very solid. I know it's not as solid over here, but I think that's just the way the sun's going. But yeah, a kind of very solid, thin white strip puts you in Chile. As for this, I'd put us actually in one of these pockets. So in Patagonia, it's not much in terms of having roads which are, you know, not surrounded by absolutely mental mountains. This up here, very sort of green and lush. It could be in one of these pockets as well. It is a bit of a doozy, bit of a nightmare. But I would actually commit a bit further down here. I think Coyhuaque is usually a pretty good one, but yeah, your two sort of like flat pockets in Patagonia, Coyhuaque and Cochrane here. Unless you get down to like Punta Arenas and stuff, but it shouldn't be that far to safe because we have got an abundance of trees and stuff. I'm going to pop it down somewhere around here and we will see. Yeah, not bad. It was not actually in one of the flat bits, it was just on a random road, but yeah, playing percentages wise, Coyhuaque or Cochrane, anywhere sort of between there and there, because this is, I mean, obviously as you've just seen, you can get outliers on little side roads, and we definitely weren't on a main road, but yeah, I just thought there's way more sort of like side roads up around here, and then when you're on the main roads up here, massive sort of your steep Patagonian mountains. Obviously there's no roads here, so yeah, using your brain and figuring out where you know, sort of narrowing it down as to where you can't be, I think is actually a better way sometimes of thinking about where it could be. So yeah, it couldn't have been here because it was way too green. It wasn't green enough, I mean. And then yeah, just playing percentage wise of where sort of like your sort of off-roady, hilly stuff is, and it's way more likely to be down here. I'm editing out the second game because I got really, really confused on a round where with France on Hungary. It was an absolute doozy of a round, to be fair. But yeah, there's no point seeing if I'm you know trying to help people. There's no point seeing me fanning about it. I will go back and look at it, and we will go through it. But yeah, there's no point with that. We're in Brazil here. Obviously, we've got the Brazilian poles, very sort of red dirt. If you are watching, go back and watch. Well, maybe I'll link it. My video I did. Took a lot of editing and didn't get the love that it should have got of going through the colours of geoguessr. Big one is this sort of very, very pinkish red dirt. And right, so dirt roads in Brazil, obviously the big ones are sort of in and around the Amazon, but they are, another standard click for me on a dirt road is sort of Minas Gerais, Goiás. But I don't think this is that, because you see just the sheer variety of trees and plants and stuff we've got. Anytime there's sort of like, yes, a bit of mental stuff going on, like I don't really recognise what this could be or what this could be. I think it's just the Amazon because it's, yeah, full of just so much random stuff. And yeah, with the very, very red road. So when it's very sort of pink, incredibly pink. I mean, red roads are common. Well, it's not red roads, red dirt, very common throughout Brazil, especially the southern half and the Amazon. But when it is this sort of pink, I would put us more Amazonian. I don't think it's this one because one, the angle doesn't line up, and two, I think I know what that one looks like. So I'll go somewhere in Para. And it's Matt Grosso instead. So yeah, it didn't feel like deep, deep Amazon, but that could be a way that, yeah, say you have got a dirt road in Brazil. I think, yeah, go and have a look at this road because that is obviously the main one leading to Manaus, and there aren't as many in and around Amazonas. If you get what I mean, like in terms of roads running through it, they are mainly in sort of Para and Mato Grosso. They're sort of Amazonian roads. So yeah, I went a bit further north, but I don't think that's bad. And then yeah, differentiating between the sort of dirt roads that you can get around here. So you can get sort of like very forested dirt roads, which I think are pretty concentrated in and around here. Again, as I said, disclaimer for everything. I don't know everything. There are outliers. I'm just telling you what I think. I've been in champion division for about a year, probably over a year now. Peak elo is 12.55, and as I said, I've got close to being top 10 in the UK. Not at the minute because I'm a bit washed because I haven't been playing as much. But yeah, that's what I see as maybe if the dirt's a bit more of a muddier red, I'd go over here. But yeah, that is nice. And here we've got Australia. I would say we are in the south. Yeah. I mean, so southern hemisphere, yeah. Your options really are Australia, South Africa, or round about here with the coolness. You can see these trees. This as well. I think it's very like cooler looking, more spindly, less lush. You can see what's going on. They're not as compare this to the Brazilian round where it's just like green blooming everywhere. And well, this actually is a deciduous. Is that the one where it loses its trees and loses flowers in winter? I cannot remember. But yeah, so obviously not very tropical. I mean, I would still put us Australia because well, we've got a gate, and it's again this not using the word civilized, but more westernized and more, well, it's more European looking in it. I'm going to put it somewhere around Melbourne. Sydney. It was going to be, we'll go and have a look at it now, to be fair. So yeah, these trees are very, very common in sort of, well, Australia, but other places as well, but very, very common in Australia. And because it feels cooler, I just clicked on the big southern city, which is Melbourne. But yeah, I think it could have been Melbourne or Sydney. I don't think it could have been up in Brisbane. Brisbane is a lot hotter, a bit more tropical looking. So yeah, you wouldn't get as cool looking trees. Certainly this here as well. So yeah, and then South Australia, Western Australia. I mean, it could have been Western Australia to be fair, looking at it as well. Maybe even an SA as well. But yeah, certainly with cool looking trees like this and this, we'll put you one of the southerner ones in Australia. And then we are in what feels like a big sort of development. As we get in here, we are in a city. So yeah, don't fanny about, just click one of the major cities. I think, if you get around like that. It could have honestly have been Sydney or Melbourne, I think, so that's fine. And we've got another one here, and I think this is actually a pretty good way of telling it apart, hopefully. Although looks like he's driving on the left, actually. That looks like we're driving on the left, so we're not actually Brazil. I think we're Indonesia. If this guy's driving on the left, can't really tell if he's got a front plate on him, but Indonesia. Yeah, I'm gonna go Indonesia. We're on the left, dirt road. Kind of fits again with sort of all of this going on around us. Big sort of lush green tropical whatever going on. And so you're in Indonesia. I think, well, one, we're in trouble, but two, I think I can rule out Java because in terms of having like, yeah, jungle coverage, I haven't really seen it. It's kind of the only one that's, you know, it's massively populated throughout all of it, really. Sort of, you're only a little bit of wilderness, so like up in the hills. That's sort of where people haven't really built. This just doesn't feel like Sulawesi. Obviously, Kalimantan is the most, the most jungly. But my first instinct, and this is the thing, I think you should always trust your first instinct. I find it very, very hard sometimes committing, and maybe if I was in a game here, I would probably just head to Kalimantan. But we're not in a game, so I'm going to go say Sumatra, and that was the first thing that popped into my head when I saw it and thought it was Indonesia, you know. So there's got to be some sort of workings going on there. A lot of the time, you know, the guesses you have, you can't really explain them. You just have some hunches. And look, it's learning to sort of like trust that hunch and when not to trust it. Sometimes it can be wrong and can do with a bit more thought, but yeah, my hunch was Indonesia. I think that's a very nice Sumatra one, actually, getting that. Something about the coverage didn't feel like Kalimantan, and as I said, I think with this sort of mental jungle coverage on a dirt road, you can sort of rule out, well, you can't ever rule out Sulawesi. You know, but I haven't seen as much coverage like this there, and it's, you know, this is what I'm talking about what we talked about in the last one. But I'm coming up to like 10,000 games played here. I just sort of pick up what kind of coverage is where and what isn't. Kalimantan is a lot hillier as well, so yeah, Sumatra is relatively flat by Indonesian standards. One of the flatter ones. All in all, and yeah, I think that's a very good guess. I probably even should have clicked Jambi, to be fair, but yeah, it sort of felt like the coverage around here just without the oil palms. So, you know, when you get dumped in like a random dirt road with oil palms around you, it kind of felt like that. So before deforestation and shit got there, the one bit of Indonesia that hasn't been deforested and covered with oil palms is right there. So it's good to know for next time. But yeah, not bad all in all. Nice guess there, decent guess there. We'll ignore that because that was I'll show you it. But my brain just exploded on this. I thought that this was maybe like a more French road number thing, but everything else was screaming Eastern Europe. Might even have gone Bosnia or something if I was, but yeah, can't really talk you through much about that because it's a bit of a honking round. Maybe this is a meta, and maybe it is. We'll just show you for now. Lots of pixelation. Maybe someone better than me might be able to tell you if that is a signifier for Hungary. I don't know. But the rest of it was pretty good. I mean, as for this, yeah, we're just in one of the big cities. It was going to be Melbourne or Sydney. Maybe looking at it a bit more, these are more NSW. I kind of struggle sometimes comparing the two. Getting Victoria and New South Wales mixed up, you know. But we'll do another one. We will keep waffling for you, and it is this is Brazil, I believe, and this one now is a bit of a doozy. Now, as you can see, the dirt is not red at all. So you compare this. We are on a dirt road here, and yeah. Compare that to the one we had before over here. It's definitely, well, it shouldn't be over here. Should be sort of around here-ish. There is something about what's going on over here. And this is what I mean about sort of having hunches and stuff like that, that is making me kind of want to go Rio Grande do Sul. Especially maybe with this, everything feels quite a bit cooler. As I said, I usually just tend to go here when I get a sort of dirtish road round, but yeah, we have got a bit of white car going on. We are Southern Hemisphere. And we do have just some sort of randomish poles as well, which they're not your stereotypical Brazilian poles, which here, sort of in and around here, they are more common in these sort of states. For Aura, I'm going to do it. It was Piranha, so not, I count that as not that bad. I mean, I should have gone closer to the coast, but yeah, sort of telling these ones far apart. These ones here apart, certainly this coastal area, all looks very, very similar. I did just throw it down. I didn't actually think it was there. I would have gone here, but yeah, I count that as all right as well. But it did feel quite a bit more southern. Yeah, we didn't have any red dirt at all, which would put us, yeah, more closer to the coast around here as well. And then something about this little bit fence as well felt very down there. And as I said before, these yeah, having sort of random poles, so you're not your Brazilian ladder poles. Certainly the Pampas, those southern states, and yeah, everything just feels a bit cooler. So being able to tell what are sort of like cool trees and what are tropical, but you see what I mean about the ones kind of like the ones in Australia, where it's not sort of all the way down the branch and it's sort of fanning out a bit. Maybe to get more sunlight and whatnot. I'm not a plant biologist, I don't know, but I think it's probably something to do with that. But yeah, further from the equator, less tropical. Yeah, and you can see, compare that to, I know this is like we'd never go Amazon on this, but and you should never go Amazon on this, but all the trees are a bit more uniform as well. If you can look what I mean, they're very, very similar. Yeah, not as much mental just stuff going on. So yeah, not going to be in the Amazon and around the sort of tropical bit. So yeah, nice one there actually. I know we were pretty far away, but I find this area, telling all this apart, a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. It yeah, it kind of sucks. But if you can get somewhere in around there with a rain like that, I think that's very, very good actually. Here we are in Mexico. I would say we've got the blue car. As for this round, I think, honest to God, yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with just clicking Mexico City. It was Guerrero, so yeah, it was one of the neighboring states in around Mexico City, but there's nothing here that's telling me to go anywhere else. I think this is sort of a very wise way of thinking about it, of you shouldn't, unless you are a massive, you know, a pro or whatever, and you do know specifically what every region of Mexico looks like, but there is a hell of a lot of truth to when you get sort of rain like this, which isn't telling you anything really. You know you're in Mexico because you've got the blue car, you know, blue front of the car. So, I mean, could maybe be some weird blue car America if that exists. But again, knowing your skill level, playing the percentages, being like, right, I'm going to assume this is Mexico here because of the car. I don't know, again, about outlying cars elsewhere. We are Northern Hemisphere, and there is nothing here screaming to me to go anywhere else in Mexico. You know, we're dry, we've got a bit of everything. Not going to be here. I mean, it could potentially be some sort of pocket up here of stuff, maybe, but if it is and your opponent gets it, hold your hands up and say GG, you're better than me, you know. But wise to just click Mexico City. Mexico City has a lot of different landscapes to it. You know, it can have the green mountains, it can be flat, it can have these sort of darker mountains like this, and we are on a side road, so we are sort of in a more built up area. There's more coverage around the built up areas, you know. So yeah, playing the percentages again, just click Mexico City on a rain like that, or click any sort of capital or middle when you're not really getting much to tell you. Well, thank God for that sign. Well, I mean, if we would have seen what hemisphere we're in, it would have been fine. So yeah, we've got cacti here as well. So, well, we've got the Peruvian sign, so that's fine indeed. But say you didn't have that, well, you should use the sun. And you think about where small cam is. Got massive blur down here, so could maybe be in Argentina. But I mean, it could maybe be, yes, weird stuff out in Argentina, small can up here, but yeah, we've got the signs of black and white. Christian as well, so yeah, lots of death markers for people who I assume have been stupid enough to drive along a road like this. You would not catch me. This is a decent quality one for Peruvian standards as well, although I see it looks pretty sharp down here, but I've been on some pretty shit roads. I went on a couple in Costa Rica, been on one or two in Norway and Switzerland as well, which were pretty terrifying, but at least they somewhat had guardrails by the side of them. And Wales, actually. There's the Horseshoe Pass up near Llangollen, actually, which is pretty minging. But yeah, sort of death markers by the side of the road, big Peruvian thing, and yeah, so it's one of the. Obviously, we got Gen 4, so it's a really crisp image that tells you apart from Bolivia for sure. And say you were, I don't know, torn between Mexico or Chile, say the sun was a little bit sort of middle. This mix of greens and yellows and oranges in the sort of shrubbery here. I know it can, again, I'm repeating myself, but it can be found elsewhere. It's not the only place in the world that has the colour green, you know. But yeah, I kind of like it as a tell in your sort of like hillier places, hillier countries. I mean, for Peru. And again with this, I'm not really getting much. I'm getting a south vibe because it's drier. So north half of the country is very, very well. It is greener, but there are pockets that lie, and I mean, I went here, I think, and it was like a green Cusco, so yeah, again, if it is and you're wrong, hold your hands up and just be like, it's not my day. It will even itself out at some point. I think that's sort of another thing, which I sort of get a bit pent up with being like, oh, I should know absolutely everything, and I can't believe that wasn't there, and I didn't go there, or whatever, but it's a hard game. It's an incredibly hard game. And there are lots of bits of the world that look similar, you know, lots of bits of countries which look similar. But I will put it somewhere safe. It's not Atacama because, well, it shouldn't be Atacama. So I feel like this down here wouldn't have anywhere near as much, sort of vegetation. So we'll go somewhere in around there. Not bad. Not bad. But like that there, that's a hedge of everything really, because I know the sort of general area which it could be with that kind of coverage, you know. And again, I ruled out here, ruled out the north, kind of know what this looks like because it's a bit drier, and yeah, with that sort of certainly more yellows in my shrubbery and grass and stuff. I put Lima to Cusco almost, and then that's sort of me hedging. I know there isn't as much stuff maybe around here, is it? So that rules out there. Know what Lake Titicaca looks like. Cusco would be 2025. So that's actually one that I will mention is small cam coverage, small cam copyright in Peru. If you see 2025, just slam Cusco every time. The rest of the stuff is pretty much 2026. So yeah, 2025 slam Cusco, everything else. So that rules out there as well. And then yeah, nice guess actually. I think we're on pretty decent score. And here, I would say that we are in Colombia over Mexico, just simply because of I've decided to pick one. The road lines, the angle of the hill, because my hunch was east of Andes. So I think if you see, and maybe this little bit of blur here might trigger something in my brain that reminds me of a Colombian side. Either it might look like it could somehow have a cross on it. But yeah, we've got sort of a lot of lush green open farmland as well. So east of Andes in Colombia is very, very flat. and it would kind of fit almost as well if that is, we are looking at the Andes over there. So yeah, the other option, and it could still be sort of Chiapas, but I think you go in and you look, say, maybe that doesn't really line up, but we will give it a go. And yeah, nice. So this is actually a really good game. I'm not disgracing myself. I haven't had to edit out any of the guesses, but yeah, that there felt like it. But yeah, certainly the road as well. Maybe having single your dashed yellow put me maybe a bit more Colombia. And then yeah, so you've got flat everywhere around you except for the north and certainly to the west. So definitely nothing to the east and south, as far as pretty much all of this area goes. And then if you see that and you line up the mountains, again, I talked about it before, and your map is your biggest friend, you know, this does not lie at all, you know, so don't bother. I don't know, if you see that you're flat with hills to the north, don't guess in the middle of the Andes. As for ruling out, I mean, to me, this is just a pretty obvious Mexico, Colombia 50-50. I don't think it could be much elsewhere. I mean, I think maybe that's just picking it up from over the years. It couldn't really be Brazil. It's definitely not Argentina. It's, yeah, sort of just learning coverage really, and what areas look like. I think you sort of come to terms with knowing what the east of Andes look like. So yeah, I mean, you can, please don't not watch. But with all of this, there is no substitute for just playing and practicing and, you know, having a click about and getting it wrong and going, you know, northern Colombia when it's east of Andes, or plonking this down in Brazil or something. But I think, yeah, this is just one that's maybe a lot of muscle memory, and I can just sort of tell that it's just a Mexico Colombia 50-50, and with the angle of all of that going on there, it's yeah, pretty standard east of Andes Colombia. And we've got Norway. Yeah, it should be Norway. And I'm going to mess this up. What score are we on? 18-5-1-2-4. So that's pretty good. If we can somehow region guess Norway, then we might get a decent score. So we are obviously quite far north. I think the only other option for this, I mean, obviously besides bits of Scandinavia, would potentially be of really north, high up Scotland, but it's not, because of reasons. It's just way too sort of remote and high up and all of that. Don't ever consider, actually, I mean, you could consider Northern Scotland for this, but you shouldn't. You should always rule out every option, but I think you shouldn't overcomplicate it as well. So I've just completely contradicted myself there. But yeah, by all means, you know, consider the alternatives. Don't just slam, like, you could just slam Norway, but yeah, consider where else it could be, especially if it's like high multis and, you know, it could matter. But yeah, it's going to be Norway. And this is why Norway sucks, because I know we're super high up and we're super remote, and as you can see, we don't have any trees growing at all over here, and we've only got a few over here, so that either puts you, well, the rule is you go far north when you see a completely sort of barren landscape, but it is relatively, by Norway standards, flatter up here, and there is a sort of very high plateau up here as well that I've actually, well, I haven't driven through, but my mum drove through because I'm blind, pretty much, and will never be able to go behind the wheel of a car for the sake of all mankind. But we went across some like cross-country roads over right here-ish, which can look very similar to the ones up north. You could honestly also truck a Trondheim down if you are fancying it. As I said before, if you are stuck between two and don't want to guess, it could still be here, you know? It's a kind of a mix of everything. And it was just that there. So yeah, that's realistic. Maybe it wasn't going to be up there because the hills were a bit big, but yeah, Norway's just a nightmare. I kind of just threw that down because it doesn't really matter about my score, but I probably should have gone more safe. Maybe a bit with the exposed rock as well. I do love talking about the exposed rock down here and here, which I do tend to think is more of a southern Scandinavia thing. So yeah, maybe that actually could have put us more there, and I should have just trusted my gut, to be honest. We do have some trees as well, at least. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times I've gone max Norway and it's been south, and my opponent has as well. So yeah, just good luck with Norway, I think is my only advice. But do know about the fact that now we'll talk into it, and we'll go through the country, because certainly up here is majorly like sort of freeform sharp mountains, and then obviously you've got the fjords over here. So in terms of having those sort of high plateaus like this, where you're sort of going through the mountains and you see they're not massively like craggy and massive cliffs everywhere, they're sort of more rolling hills. I mean, there's still massive mountains, but there's huge elevation. But yeah, sort of at the top of that is sort of this rolling landscape, is in the north and sort of in this sort of plateauy middle and around here. So not bad. With a better Norway guess, we could have been alright. It's a nice Colombia, nice Mexico, nice Peru, and I actually can't. We could have got a banging score if I guessed on the coast here and stuck with my one there. Then we could have. But yeah, 22k is pretty good there. Let me check the time and see if I can waffle a bit more. Not really. That's 34 minutes. I mean, the last one was 40 and that was pretty long. So we will leave it there. Hopefully that has helped. I am going to try and get into doing more of this. I did used to, but I sort of been massively obsessed and addicted to playing duels, which is probably why my ranking is plundered. But yeah, if any of that helps, do chop. We'll keep chopping. Do chop a little subscribe down, or give it a like or comment and be like, "You're an idiot, that was obviously wrong," or whatever. Not that anybody ever does that. That's just the running commentary inside my head. But anyway, catch you in a bit. See you soon.